Serious, teachers of Reddit, what red flags have you seen in your students? What happened? Once had a parent find out that I'm gay. And B, I have some music industry contacts. They immediately offered me unlimited, unsupervised access to their 16-year-old son in exchange for helping him break into the music business. I was 35. I reported them immediately. I had a kid my first or second year, so this was 1995-96, who was pretty scary. I teach English. BTW. He was just an asshole, had an excuse for everything. Tried to bully other kids. When we had discussions about literature, he wanted to derail the conversation into weird territory. Hard to explain. But the kid was just off. At parent conference time, Mom came in. And I was careful to say some positive things. Him derailing conversations because creativity. For example, Mom cried and told me no one had ever said anything positive about her kid before me. She even wrote me a thank you note. I also covered the aspects of his behavior that concerned me. Of course. Anyway. After high school he got arrested for theft, drugs, and assault and spent some time in jail. He committed suicide before he was 30. Edit, I didn't mean for the ending to be so abrupt. I had him in 10th grade. Totally forgot about him. And then a few years later I heard he was in jail. And then a few years after that heard he had committed suicide. He's not the only disturbed kid I've had. But because it was my first year, I remember him. I had a teacher tell us, the entire classroom, that she doesn't send letters or notes home regarding a student's behavior because she once had a student come back the next day with bruises. Edit, correcting grammar. I'm honestly so thankful for teachers like this. I didn't do too well on a bio test once. And my teacher wanted me to get it signed. Once she saw my hesitation, she withdrew immediately. Asked if I would be in danger if I had it signed. And then never sent anything home again. Bless her. Had a high school student who was a well-known white supremacist wear a bulletproof vest to school one day. Quietly called administration to come take him from class. His father complained, where in the dress code does it say he can't wear a bulletproof vest? That was a big red flag. Later that year kid was expelled for extorting money from other kids by threatening them with a screwdriver. A year later that student got shot in the face and lost his entire nose. And he's now in prison. My mom had a kid who came from a very broken home. I can't remember specifics. But he was raised by his grandmother due to his mother and father being incarcerated. He's given my mother some hell by being violent towards other students. Violent towards her and other teachers. And even showing violence towards administrators. During centers, the kids are divided up and my mom has a group with her including this child. They read a story about a dog. And my mom used that to segue into some comprehension questions concerning the story. The topic of pets is brought up. And the boy mentions that his sister's rabbit died earlier in the year and that he was the one who killed the rabbit. My mother gets a bit concerned. And asks the boy if it was on accident. And he replies that it wasn't and that he choked the rabbit until it stopped breathing. My mom quickly had to push the topic to something else because the other kids in the center's group were noticeably uncomfortable, including herself. My mother began the process to put him into an alternative school for students with emotional behavioral difficulties. But his mother got out of jail and moved him along with his siblings to Florida just before he was set to begin at school. You know when a young person learns how to curse, they don't inflect the sentence correctly and it just sounds wrong? WTF? Becomes what the duck? Just sounds weird. About 3 months ago, we were just having a conversation about his college application and he just said, "Yeah, well if I don't get into MIT I guess I'll just kill myself." It didn't sound like a joke. It just sounded wrong. Like he inflected it incorrectly. It threw me off. I scolded him. "Hey dude. Easy. Don't joke about that stuff." This past Tuesday he committed suicide. We loved that kid. He was an adult in a 17-year-old's body. I'll never forgive myself for not seeing that. After music class, one of my students lingered after everyone left and told me he was afraid to go home. I asked him why, and he quickly lifted his shift and showed me welts, lacerations and black and blue marks where he had been abused. He begged me not to tell anyone, because it would only make it worse, but said he wanted me to know because I was like the father he wished he had. I convinced him that he should let me connect him with professionals on staff who could offer the type of help and counsel he desperately needed. I've been a teacher for a lot of middle schools and elementary as well, teaching art. What about majors? Anyway, there was one young man who changed my life on what I thought humanly possible to go through. Dion was his name, and since this was during the big Deion Sanders hype, he was picked on a lot for basically looking like the opposite of the athletic NFL star. Dion was one of the sweetest kids I met. He was a little overweight for his age, 12 years old, 230 pounds, but it seemed as the school year progressed he also seemed to look gradually thinner. It was odd. Most of the time you never see those crazy transformations from fat to skinny unless you teach at high school. I remember asking him one day after about 3 months of noticing what was going on, and I decided to finally act on what I was feeling. We got talking and I finally asked him, "So, Dion, how have you lost all this weight?" I tried my best not to make it awkward, but as he started telling me how he had done it, I realized it wasn't his decision. I half thought before he was going to say something along the lines of "I just can't handle the bullying," or "I hate it when they make fun of me." That was not the case. His mother had him on a diet of only celery ever since he first went home and complained about the bullying. He explained how every night his mother would weigh him and feed it and make the weight goal for that week. She would punish him. It was severe. Anytime he didn't make it, his mother would tie his arms to one end of the bed and each of his legs tied to each corner on the opposite side of the bed. Then, she would begin punching him 2 times in the gut and 1 kick to his genitals until he threw up. Gosh. I just remember listening to all this and I couldn't believe it. I knew his mother from PTA events. She was strict and demanding, but it all seemed out of character. Then Dion lifted his shirt showing the dark purple bruise marks all over his stomach. She ended up going to jail not too long after Dion and I had our conversation. Dion ended up being one of my favorite students and we still talk today. He is actually a student teaching in my class as we speak. I taught a kid about 15 years ago, who was just a tough kid. There were times when he wasn't so bad, but he was known around our high school as a troublemaker. Teachers dreaded having him in their class. I survived my year with him and we actually parted ways on decent terms. After high school, I would run into him every now and again, as he was dating the daughter of someone I knew relatively well. I was told that it wasn't a healthy relationship, which didn't really surprise me. A couple of years later, it's summer vacation and I'm just waking up and turn on the TV. The big news story is about a police shooting in our town. The police responded to a domestic violence call and ended up having to shoot and kill the suspect. My former student, a family member, later told me what happened. Neighbors heard screaming and called the police. Police found the girlfriend holding their 6-month-old, cowering in a corner. He was on the other side of the room, holding a butcher knife. Police told him to put down the knife, and his last words were, "Okay, I'll put it down right after I kill the H." At which point he charged towards his girlfriend with the knife raised, and the police were forced to shoot him. I can't say I was surprised, but it still made me sad. Sadder still, the baby grew up emotionally mentally disturbed due to all the drugs his mother did during her pregnancy. Last I heard, she dumped the kid on her parents and is now a stripper in Vegas. I have a 7th grade student this year who bugged the hell out of me. He was that kid. He smelled bad, was disrespectful and disruptive, and generally made life miserable for us. Then, we found out about his background. At a young age, his mother tried to kill him several times. She got drunk and chased him with a knife. and he only escaped by locking himself into the bathroom. She tried to drown him. She used to put out cigarettes on him. Currently, he lives with his alcoholic father who obviously hates the kid. He told me the other day that he spent the weekend going to AA meetings with both of his parents. I've made it a point to be kind to him now. I take a minute every day to talk with him and praise every positive action I see. I hope to make school something positive for him. Because I can only imagine the hell he goes home to. On work experience in a primary school, a girl age 7 was known for accusing her teachers of touching her. She said it in a way that she knew what it meant. It never escalated as people were never alone when the accused time had happened. She once accused her English teacher of touching her inappropriately, pointing to her chest, telling me about it with a sad, serious look in her eyes. Luckily I was in the class that day and saw that she patted her shoulders and that's it. So I took a wild leap thinking it would probably end badly and said, "She did not. I was watching when she patted you on the shoulder. Why would you lie about that?" She smiled and walked off. WTF. So I told the teacher later about what she said and she replied with, "We don't really know, but once she said her mum drills it in her head that if anyone touches you, tell people about it. We have told her mother, but she apparently hasn't fixed the issue." Now if you've worked in childcare, you know that any accusation about touching a child is very serious, and even if no proof is given and can easily lead to instant dismissal or even a mark on your record even if you are innocent, stopping you getting a job anywhere else to do with children. And I know I'm gonna get downvoted for saying this, but this is especially true for us guys. I was told by my childcare tutor that as a guy you have to be very careful about any contact made with a child, and it's probably best not to for any reason other than emergencies. Glad I didn't follow this life choice route and went to work with reptiles instead. Humans are messed up. My mom was a second grade teacher and had a little boy in her class that would go full redrum and draw crazy things on his dry erase board. He would write things like "kill" with images of dead classmates. Upon asking the student why he was writing these things, he just replied with, "She's telling me to." The scariest part was the boy was absolutely terrified. He didn't want to draw any of these things but felt obligated by this woman. My mom recommended him for a psyche eval and turns out he had severe schizophrenia.